was thinking about our word today, I could not help but think of the times we are living today. I started thinking, and I remembered a verse that has been trending a lot in our WhatsApp. I don't know whether it's in Instagram, in tweet. And this is a verse that I will read because this verse reminds us of these days. This verse is Isaiah chapter 26 and verse 20. I know all of us have seen it, and if you have not seen it, it will soon reach to you. In Isaiah 26 verse 20, this verse says, "Go, my people, enter your rooms and shut the doors behind you. Hide yourself for a little while until his wrath has passed by." And when I was thinking about this, I said, there are some verses that have never made sense to me until I have lived them. When God told people to hide a little while, I didn't know that is the meaning of our lockdown today. And when we stay indoors, it's because we are hiding. And imagine, we are hiding from each other. Because the minute we come out, something bad is happening. So I also thought of it, and I said, God, you have told them to stay a little while. What is a little while for you? Because as 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 8 reminds us that one day in the Lord is like 1,000 years. So what is a little while? And I started thinking, oh God, could one day be could one day mean a day in our times? And I said, our minds are different from the minds of the Lord. Yes, it can. Because when we think of the Passover, when the children of Israel were told to prepare to be delivered from captivity, when they were instructed how to prepare for the crossover or for the Passover, Moses was given all the instructions, how they should prepare the lamb or the goat, how they should eat, and then how they should dress, so ready to go. And then they were told to put some blood on their doorpost, one at the top and both sides, which is the sign of the cross. At that time, they had no recollection of what that meant, because it was a true deliverance from bondage. And he added, when you get to verse 22, chapter 12, Exodus chapter 12 and verse 22, you see Moses telling them, and you should not leave the house the whole night until morning. So our night can be one. So a little while can be a little while. Amen? So I started asking myself, so tell me, where did these things about the mask, about the distancing come from? We know we are living in a land whose legal tender declares in God we trust. Every time you use the currency here, you are reminded in God we trust. I don't know whether most of us even look at the money when we are buying and selling, but we are reminded in God we trust. So I found myself thinking of this. And I asked, where did this mask come from? Distancing. How did they come up with this idea? And I was reminded of H1N1. I know most of us have heard it. But perhaps, like me before, we had never thought of really digging of what this means. And I realized H1N1 came from Spain. And it came in 1918. 1918, that is almost a century. It's a century ago. It came in February 1918 And it was here for 2 years, up to September 1920. That is only 2 years, brethren. 2 years. By the end of the epidemic, 500 million people in the world were infected. 50 million were dead. And 675,000 had died in US only. And I told myself, no wonder. Those people who lived or witnessed that, the word COVID-19 is scary. And I told myself, we can tell. It's the guidelines we are getting today that are working, or that worked at that time. And those that know about that, they really don't want to joke around with COVID-19. I've heard so many people saying, oh, it's a hoax. I have never seen. Thank God you have never seen. Because unless you are working in healthcare, to see it is to get sick or to witness somebody going through it. It's not good. I know, yes, people are saying, oh, you get sick, you're strong enough, you go home after 18 days, you might go to the hospital, you might be just quarantining wherever you will be. But in real sense, it's not only the 14 days. Today, we have so many doctors even talking about the long haulers. Why? Because once you get sick, you can get sick and not even know. You could be asymptomatic. You don't even know because your immune system was very strong. But then, after that, the body doesn't know what to do with the antibodies in your body. It's a new virus. So the body continue working, fighting, and eventually you realize everything in your body is being impacted. I've watched a lot of videos in the TV of people who say, I got sick, it wasn't bad. After 2 weeks, I was all well. But the problem is the after effect. They are calling it post-acute COVID-19. And so many people are home, almost crippled, almost disabled. Just because they got it, they healed. And then other things started developing. So COVID is not a joke. And I found myself asking God, so what do we do? What do we do? Because most of us have never even seen this. Most of us are told what happened in those days. Even if it breaks, they have solution to quarantine people and wear masks, and we don't know much about this H1N1. And I found myself debating with God. Yes, you have told us to stay in the house a little while, because after this, we are going to see your hand. And I found myself thinking, yes, COVID can come and go, but think of it today, the impact of COVID-19 in our lives. The whole world, there is no one country that can help the other. We have heard there is new vaccine now. People have started getting vaccine. But one thing I have realized, there is no one country that will help the other. If you can't afford to buy your own, it's time for countries to take care of their own. The people who are even producing it, they are saying we have to cater for ours first. And I thought about it. We are crying. Businesses are down. The economy is down. So what do we do, God? One thing I know, the solutions that are coming, they are solutions for corporal help. Like the whole world will get a solution. Definitely. because the whole world has been impacted. But there is also a solution for every individual. What do I mean? Everybody in the world is being impacted. Today I heard in the news that this lady died of COVID when giving birth. She didn't see her child. And I was like, wow, that child has been impacted. The day she stepped on this world, the mother passed. Husbands have lost wives. Wives have lost. Children have lost both the parents. There are so many people who have lost their loved ones or who have been impacted by this COVID. Perhaps you have lost a job. And I was going through the scriptures and thinking, what can we encourage ourselves with? And the first person who came to me was Moses. You can ask me, what does Moses have to do with COVID? And I thought of Moses growing up in Pharaoh's house. Truly, they expected to be the next king. Moses knew he wasn't an Egyptian. And in him, although they were planning for him, he knew, in me, I will deliver my people. So he learned the protocols. He was honored. Everybody thought he was an Egyptian. And then at 40, he thought, I can start my mission. And at that 40 is a good age. Because at 40, if you're a man, really, there is some courage in you. There is some boldness. There is some strength. You can start doing what is in your heart. And unfortunately, when he started his mission, his own did not know him. He had not lived like them. So when he started helping, it became a tragic. So he ran away. For 40 years, he lived with the Midianites. He turned to be a shepherd. The good thing is, he lived with Jethro, who was a Hebrew. So he continued learning more things. Then, after he had mastered his life, now as a shepherd, he could even take the animals to the mountain. He's now on Mount Horeb. You know, in the mountain you can climb. You know your sheep will not get lost if you have mastered the trade. But as he is up there, he sees a burning bush. He sees a burning bush. That is like COVID. When you think this is now my time, something hits your life. And everything you knew, you forget. Because I know life will not be the same after this. There are so many people who perhaps you had a big church. You had congregation. Since childhood, all you have known is to minister. And your church is not coming back. What do? Because after COVID, life will continue. If you're one of the people who will be here in this world, life will continue. You could have just built some rental complexes. And you knew 2020 is my year. I'll have people to rent and I'll be able to pay the loan because mostly we build with borrowed money. Right when the first tenants got in, COVID hit. And your people are not paying rent. You go to the court, you sue them, and then the policemen came and evacuate them. Your house is left alone. Not only are you not getting the money, but your house is now wearing out. You know, when you don't have people in the house, they start cracking, other things happen. And now you are wishing you didn't even throw them out. They could have maintained your house. You have gone to school. You wanted to come out and start your job. For one, your graduation became either Zoom, you know. All the fun people knew of throwing their hats is out of it. The wearing of the gowns and celebrating, you forget it. If you're in a foreign land, you knew your mother will come to US because of your graduation, it's gone. Your little brother that you left, who is 5, 6 more years older, you thought this is the time to see him, or your sister, it's forgotten. They're not coming because there is no graduation. Life is different after that. While people not complaining of not getting jobs, now it's even worse. That is Moses. Just when you think this is my time, something hit. So what do you do? What do you do? And that is in Exodus chapter 3. Let's see what Moses did. Remember, by the time he's seeing the burning bush, he's 80 years old. Imagine, that is when you're starting your life. You know, everything you learned for 40 years, is it still there? 40 years you're in the wilderness. No, nothing. You still thought you're going to fulfill. And for 40 years old, you're almost giving up your hope. And we see that he is now taking care of the flock. Let's start from verse 2. There, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, I will go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up. When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. And Moses said, Here I am. Do not come any closer, God said. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Then he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. The Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hands of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land into a good and spacious land. So that continues. He explains how the land is, how he's going to save them from the land has these Canaanites and all that. Then in verse 10, he says, so now go, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. So what have we learned? Don't give up. It's never too late. Whatever is going on through COVID, keep faith. God is still watching you. He will not leave you. He will not forsake you. Things might look like everything is going wrong, but in the hands of God or under the covering of God, you are still in his timeline. He will come, and he is coming. He created you at this time, knowing this will happen. Remember, it did not catch him unaware. We just sang, he is the Alpha and the Omega. He knows the end from the beginning. He knew you'll be here. He knew all those things. But all we need, let's keep our faith. This is the time even to draw nearer to him. When things look like they are all done, this is the time to draw nearer to him. He has promised us when we draw nearer, he will draw near to us. Look at him. If Moses saw the burning bush and watched it from afar, he could just have seen not a burning bush, a bush that was not burning. There was fire, but it wasn't burning. And in him, he thought he's going to see. The minute he made that decision to draw nearer to the bush, God spoke to him. He did not leave him that way. Yes, he gave him the story. Who knew about the suffering of the Israelites than Moses? He even tried to intervene. So he knew what God is telling him. So you have gone through all these things. And you know what? God knows. Eventually, he will pick them as a puzzle, fit them together, and then send you back to where you are supposed to be. Because COVID is coming to an end. Look at God giving him the mission now. Now I want you to go back. The good thing is, the Pharaoh that was looking for Moses was no longer alive. So he was told to go back. He still fulfilled his mission, but he needed more preparation. So all the things he went through are the things he was to go through in the wilderness, leading these children to their promised land. Okay, we have had that. And yes, if we don't give up hope, still have our faith in God, a time is coming when he will really tell us what he wants us to do with our lives, because he knows why he brought us in this world. Not only that, I thought, Moses has been called. And yes, you can see the discussion. He argued about it. And eventually, what he was told, God did. Now, I will ask you again, are you like the children of Israel? You have the promises of God. You know them well. COVID hits. It doesn't take you out. And now, God sends somebody to come up with solutions. We are hearing of vaccines. We know vaccines are not coming to heal, but they are coming to protect us from the bad impact of the COVID. So, if you get sick and you have vaccine, it will not push you too much. Mostly, it will also reduce the deaths. We shall not be talking of the 500 million. We shall not be talking of the 50 million dead. So that is what all these things will do. Now, you even have a leader who has been called by God to lead you and help you through all these problems. Perhaps you have a good president who everything that comes, he's there to help you. You have perhaps new parents who have adopted the children. Things are good. So now it's time for you to really accomplish what God has given you. Then you find yourself like the children of Israel. COVID is ending. We are now having our time. This is 1920. So we are talking of, it could be September, October now. We are leaving COVID era. We are now going to start our businesses. You take some few courses to remind yourself of what you learned, because jobs are opening. The government has given help. And now our life is coming. And just the time you're coming out of those problems, Pharaoh decides it's not enough. I have to follow this. He goes for the 600 choice men in his army and decides, I'm going to get them back. Just because you thought, now life is coming back, I need to start paying for my rental complex, something comes. And the little money you are getting from your renters, something else comes. And that money, instead of paying for your loan, it starts paying for the sickness. It starts doing other things. Just when hope is coming, something else. So you have left the bondage now, and now you're going, happy, happy, happy. You have carried everything you need. And then, right before you get to Red Sea, knowing that now we are far from COVID, we have taken hold of this. As you're looking back, you see Pharaoh, and you know who he is and what he can do. And in front of you, you have the Red Sea. You don't even know how to cross this Red Sea. So you are between a rock and a hard place. Life was coming. Uber is starting, everything is picking. Jobs are opening. And then all of a sudden, something strikes. It could be a war, could be a sickness, could be a death. Just when hope is there. And then you find yourself sandwiched. Truly, everybody will now start giving up. A second time, just before, when you had all the hope, and you can see God took care of all the pandemic. Now you're good. Something else comes. And it hits in a big way. But before it hits, you start crying, reminding your leader, we cannot be coming to die. You promised, God answered. You voted. You got the bad leader was removed and the good leader was introduced in your workplace. So today your CEO is one of the best people. The PR is good. He caters for everybody's problems. So when you are there and you're screaming to God, the problem is so big. The solution is in Exodus chapter 14 and verse 13. Moses answered the people. This is when they were all crying and giving up. Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Is it possible to learn to be still? Sometimes when you realize you really don't have much to do, it's only trusting in the Lord. Because this far, you have realized you can't make a way in the Red Sea. Pharaoh is coming with the best soldiers or the military, and he's really going to get you out. It doesn't matter, there are only 600, and you're 2 million. You have no arms. You are all slaves. You are not trained to even do anything. Just as now we are waiting for the doctors, the medical field to come up with a solution to help us. So let us learn to be still and wait for what God is going to do. Another thing that came to me is David. Because all these examples, we have gone through them. David, in 1 Samuel chapter 30, the Amalekites and all these groups came. And we see David going to war and fighting, protecting everything in his camp. He goes with other men to work, and they come out with victory. But by the time they are coming back, things are not good at home. Most of us are doing everything we can to see that this life, this COVID, does not bring us down and our families. Some of us are working in healthcare, and although that is the most risky place, you are giving your life to that, sacrificing working overtime. Yes, when others are crying for money, you are getting excess. But the problem is the depression of seeing people dying every minute. The depression of seeing the number increasing every time. getting exhausted because you don't have time to rest. You have a family, you can't even be home because you needed 16 hours at work. And by the time you come, if you have done 2-3 CPRs, CPR is not a joke. If really somebody's life is going, to do CPR, you really get tired. All you are watching is sadness, death. If one person heals, oh, you celebrate. Even among you, you're getting sick, but still, you have to be there. A man has even left the city to go and look for something else somewhere else, so that the family will have something to eat. But the minute you leave, COVID hits. And now that the schools are closed, your wife can't even work well. And now she has COVID. Nobody to cook for your children because she has to hide herself now. Quarantine, not to pass this thing to the children. You know, it's so sad. I read the other time about this 11-year-old who he was in one room. He was going through class, Zoom. So he switched off the camera. The sister was on the other room. And as they were going through the classes, as you know, teachers mute the cameras or whatever access the kids have. She had a bang. To go to check what was that, the brother just shot himself and died. So this is in California. So the girl goes to her room and tells the teacher in the Zoom, my brother has shot himself. So the teacher called for 911, and then she told the girl to go to the neighbors. Imagine, children are going through depression because of COVID, because they're not with other children. And that is stressing parents more because they also can't work enough. And when children are home, they demand more. So you need to provide more. When children are home, you need to provide them with other things that they need to do because you don't even want them to go to other friends. Things are bad. And I think of this, you who have been denying yourself life, you who have even left your children alone, all these sacrifices, you even join, if you have money, you're joining others to feed other people who don't have money. You even accommodate some people who have been evicted from their homes. And after sacrificing all these things, all you get is complaint. You bring neighbors to your home. Their kids can't stay with your kids well. Now you need to provide for them. Some other things come up. You go give some people, you provide to some people, but they're never satisfied because it's so hard to satisfy an adult or to feed another family. And all you get is complaint. So this is where David found himself. So he went and they fought. When they came back, his men found that their wives and their families have been taken away. They did not think we went with David to fight. They did not remember the victory they had. This is what they did, verse 6 to 8. They complained to David. So David was greatly distressed because the men were talking of stoning him. Each one was bitter in spirit because of his sons and daughters. But David found strength in the Lord his God. Then David said to Abiathar the priest, the son of Ahimelech, bring me the ephod. Abiathar brought it to him, and David inquired of the Lord, shall I pursue this raiding party? Will I overtake them? Pursue them, he answered. That is God telling him. You will certainly overtake them and succeed in the rescue. So, when things are so hard, we have an anchor. When things are so difficult, that even the people you are with, even the people you are providing to, even the boss you're working for, even the sacrifice you're giving, if nobody is understanding, your God is understanding. It's time to encourage yourself in the Lord. Because when David did this, in verse 18 and 20, we can see when he followed the advice that God gave, David did what he had inquired, and we are told David recovered everything the Amalekites had taken, including his 2 wives. Nothing was missing, young or old, boy or girl, plunder or anything else they had taken. David brought everything back. So let's not give up. Let's not give up. But let's know, when things are so hard, we have a God who will never leave nor forsake us. I know for sure, when things are so hard, we tend to be like the 2 men on their way to Emmaus. We remember after Jesus resurrected, he joined 2 men, that is in Luke chapter 24. He joined 2 men who were going to Emmaus. When I inquired what is Emmaus, I learned it was a spring water. Spring water is warm, nice. See? It doesn't just drain. You can enjoy the spring water. And one of those disciples was called Cleopas, the glory of the Father. And we see Jesus joining them. This is after he resurrected. They are disciples. So it means even if we don't have their record at the cross, they might have seen the process, all the way to Golgotha. They might have seen how Jesus was crucified, that by the time they buried him, you couldn't even recognize him. And then all the hope they had built in this Jesus is put inside a tomb. So their day is occupied of what they have lost. That was a scam. Really? How can this man promise to be the king? And eventually we put him in that hole. So damaged, he had all the power to protect himself. Because really, they were thinking of the king, the worldly king. So imagine how desperate. They had left it all. And then Jesus joined them discussing about his death and how this lady talked of him resurrecting. Imagine Jesus walked with them for 7 miles and they were discussing him. You know, if you come close to me, even if I don't see you, I will smell you, is it? If we have been close together and you're walking with me, I will know, oh, somebody is here and this is the person. Because all of us have our smell, like a scent. It's not an evil thing. Everybody has a scent. I can tell, oh, Beth is walking next to me. Imagine, he walked with them. He talked with them. He repeated the scriptures they had spoken about, because they were told about the whole Old Testament or the 5 books of Moses. They still could not pick his voice. 7 miles. We don't know the speed. At least they walked with him. They couldn't even identify him. Why? We find ourselves there. I have been there. When things are so bad, you can't even pray. Things look so evil. And I know that is where the question that comes. Why do bad things happen to good people? I know I'm not alone. A time comes that things are so bad, you don't even know what to talk with God. Even if the scriptures are preached, you are like, what? What did you just say? Isn't that exactly what I trusted you with and you failed? By the time you are an adult, at least by 40, you know what that means. You have gone through a challenge that you gave up on God. But we thank God because his grace is sufficient for us. So when we see these people walking with Jesus and they can't get anything, it's because of the pain. And that is what COVID is doing to us. You think of it, I have lost a job. What next? Children dying. Everything is so scary. And if you think of it, can you imagine if H1N1 took 500 million people? Like they were infected. How many remained disabled? And then you're told 50 million? In America, we are not even yet in 218. I think we are in 282, 285. We are not in 290 yet who are dead. And here we are talking of H1N1 killing 500 million people. Imagine that. And I was asking God, it can be that bad? It can be that bad? And I thought, let's trust in the Lord. And let's trust in his doing. He has a man like Moses who will deliver us. And truly, he will come to your situation. Let's do what we can. That reminds me of one time when Peter was fishing. And he did not catch anything the whole night. He was an expert in fishing. He did not stop doing what was supposed to be done. It was morning. And what do fishermen do? When it's morning, they clean their nets. Do the next thing you can do. Don't give up. They were cleaning the nets. And in the process, Jesus came along. And he allowed Jesus to get into his empty boat. And that empty boat, in a short while, it was filled to sinking. He had to call friends to help him. If you read in Luke chapter 5, you'll see the boats even had to put some of the fish in the second boat. And both of them were sinking. They had to call friends to come and help. Because I know a solution is coming. I know a solution is coming. So let's not give up. Let's depend on God. It doesn't matter how much pain you have gone through, how much you had given for this God, and now it looks like COVID-19 is going above our God. His name is above all names. And COVID is a name. It will bow to our God. The good thing is, at the end of this pandemic, solutions will come. That for the next or whatever generation, look at it, it's a whole 100 years since H1N1 hit. So another generation will not be worried about it. We'll really not be worried about it because a solution is coming. But it's only if we trust in our Lord. Amen? Amen. So God bless you.